So the Firaxis team has launched this anniversary update video. It happened a few days ago. And in the spirit of full disclosure, I did watch it a few hours before it launched, or a few hours after it launched. But I came down with a mad case of food poisoning, and I couldn't really address it. And to be honest, I don't really remember. I remember a few things of what's inside this video, but not in any great detail. So I kind of feel like I'm watching this for the first time, and I have, since I've recovered, been able to avoid some of the hype. Although scrolling through YouTube, I know that many of the main Civ commentators have been, leaving their thoughts and feelings about it. I think the one key thing that's going to be talked about here is the ability to play as one Civ throughout your journey through the game. And I want to make this video just kind of as a live thing, my initial reactions to whatever's inside here. So let's roll and let's take a look at what's coming up in the near future with regards to Civ 7.
Hi Civ fans, Ed Beach here, creative director of the Civilization franchise. For more than 30 years, this series has challenged players to build an empire to stand the test of time. 1 year ago, we embarked on a new journey with the launch of Civilization VII. Our vision was to push the boundaries of the franchise and offer a fresh gameplay experience. We took some big swings at launch, and it has been incredibly rewarding seeing the Civ community engage and share their passion, ideas, and feedback to help us continue to refine that vision. Over the last 12 months, we've been hard at work rolling out updates to Civ 7 and weaving your feedback into the game's DNA. As we celebrate this first anniversary, we're ready to share where Civilization 7 is going next.
So let's stop it right there. Interesting thing that Ed Beach said right at the very beginning is that for however many years, the Civilization series, and it was nice to see them start with gameplay footage from Civ 2, has been dedicated to building an empire to stand the test of time. So that is something that this commentator has been talking about since the launch of Civ 7, which was their greatest departure. Now, he talked about them trying to offer a fresh gameplay experience and then taking some big swings, which is true. And which not all of them, landed with audiences that had been really invested in that experience of building the empire to stand a test of time. So it's interesting to see them address that from the get-go. All right, let's keep going.
At the end of last year, we announced that we were working on longer lead design plans that have major implications for how the game feels and plays. Those plans include 3 key components. First, we're introducing the option to play as any Civ in any age.
Right, so that's what we expected. Obviously, this is kind of what everybody wanted. I hope he doesn't go on to say like it's a new feature. It's not what the Firaxis development team obviously wanted. It's always going to be mired by the fact that Civ switching got introduced into Civ to begin with. And we'll see how they kind of bring this back. I think there's something about syncretism that they'll mention later, which is actually, funny enough, building on my first thoughts video from more than a year ago, where I talked about this idea of pulling attributes from other civilizations to incorporate into your own without you actually changing civilizations. You know what? I'll leave a link to that video, probably with a timestamp of where to find it, because it's one of my older videos, a longer video. But I mentioned this exact kind of thing, and I think we'll get to that. I believe it's mentioned in this video, but I don't remember exactly.
And to play as the same Civ continually through all 3 ages. Second, we're significantly reworking how victories are achieved during a campaign. And third, We're completely replacing legacy paths with a new sandbox system called Triumphs.
Okay, reworking Victories. I don't know if they'll mention it, but please, just a Hall of Fame. Just something to compare what one victory looked like compared to a previous victory. This means a lot. It's such a small little thing, or even just having like your final score in there. I think Civ 7 has become kind of the first Civ that doesn't bring you to the end and kind of go like, your score was this. And you know, nobody has ever really cared, I think, too much about how they calculate that score. But just having some kind of measurement system at the end besides just victory or defeat. And for God's sake, can we get away from this, like, well, I did it, I won in one turn in the modern age or whatever? You know, nobody's really impressed. And replacing legacy paths with triumphs. I don't want to call this a bold step. I think this is kind of, granted, I don't know exactly what they mean just yet, but from what I can gather, it's kind of like, if you accomplish this, you get this reward, as opposed to like, you need to do this thing to then do the next thing, which is just sensible. You know, I would love to see them get rid of these attribute points altogether, or to have never have seen them at all. Yeah, well, let's take a look at exactly what all of this means. Like I said, though, reworking Victories, hopefully just bringing back a Hall of Fame or some way to score and compare would be great. And then this other one, this legacy paths with Triumphs switch, just kind of seems sensible.
In terms of design scope, these major feature evolutions are similar to what you typically see in an expansion. We plan to ship these features together in a single, massive, free update that we're calling Test of Time, and we're aiming for this to go live this spring.
So that's interesting. He's describing it as robust as being an expansion, but being free. And it's anytime you get something for free from a company, even though I'm sure there's a lot of Civ players out there that feel they're owed, it just getting something for free is nice. So I guess this is, what did he call it? The Test of Time expansion or update? Getting it for free, it's going to be good. I think that's going to win the hearts back of some of the people who walked away. And I think that's a significant group. So that's a step in the right direction.
Though we're eager to share more about the Test of Time update with you today, please keep in mind that the update's exact release timing, the details of its features, are all subject to change as we continue to receive and iterate on community playtest feedback. With Civ 7, our goal was to deliver a more dynamic empire building experience, where your civilization evolves and reinvents itself over time. That goal is still true, but we also know that for many, a defining part of the Civ fantasy is to lead a single Civ from start to finish. So with the Test of Time...
I still don't like this verbiage that they use. I made a video back in the summer about how they're kind of gaslighting us with the words that they use. This suggestion that by Civ switching, it means that your civilization evolves over time, and that is the more dynamic Civ experience. Like he used, I think, those exact words just a few seconds ago. It's more dynamic. And I have always felt that the leading a single Civ experience is dynamic in itself, and having played Civ 7, Civ switching doesn't make it more dynamic. So telling me that that was the intention, that's fine, but it was definitely not the result. And I think the leading a single Civ from the dawn of civilization to the present day and beyond has been the defining feature of the game. And it's, that's what people have always wanted when they come to this game. And so changing that up changed the game, and it made it not civilization. So
we're making that possible. This will not be a new game mode, but instead an optional new layer for your strategy. When creating a game, you can now choose to play as any Civ in any age, giving you a ton more options for how to set up your strategy. And once your campaign begins, you now have a new option during the age transition process. You can still select a new civ during an age transition as you do today, or you can choose to stay with your current civ and continue your campaign. There are a lot.
So how to read into that? He calls it not a new game mode, but a new layer, and that you'll be able to change or not change during any age. I see this as being fraught with problems. So one of the good things is like, okay, yes, if you want to lead the British from the start of the game to the end of the game, you can do it. But you can also, be the British from the ancient era, the exploration era, but then change to the Maya if you want in the modern era or modern age. That would be weird. And if you're playing with this game, it's not a mode, but layer, how does this apply to the other civs in the game? Because as far as I'm concerned, the civ switching is kind of a quirky, fun mechanic for me. What bothers me the most as a player is seeing a leader, Ben Franklin, leading the Greeks, and then I get to the exploration era and I'm like, well, it's not the Greeks anymore. Am I going to worry about who it is? Do I care? It should still be the Greeks. I care about what the AI is going to be able to do and what this new layer, not mode, how it's going to integrate itself into the game, because I don't want to see other civs switching. I want continuity for everybody. That's what I want. And I realize I'm just one player in the ultimate scheme of things. But I worry that this is going to be one of those things where the civ switching is still kind of like going on all around you, and you sticking with your own civ just becomes kind of like a vanity lair, as he calls it. So in the spirit of full disclosure, I haven't participated in the workshop or anything like I'm sure some other YouTubers have. So I have no hands-on experience to know how this new layer plays itself out. But just the wording that he's using around it, I'm filled with kind of like skepticism and nervous anxiety about how that's really going to play out.
Design implications for this change. So to make this feel balanced and rewarding, we're testing some new gameplay concept. Every civ has an apex age, where they are at the height of their power and have access to their full, unique kit. If you choose to play a civ outside its apex age, you'll gain access to a new, age-appropriate civics tree and a new tool called syncretism. Syncretism allows you to study the ways of other cultures and adopt the unique units or infrastructure of a completely different civilization while maintaining your core identity. This leads to some really interesting civ builds and unlocks fun new strategic gameplay.
So this whole thing about syncretism, yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure, granted, it was over a year ago, but I'm pretty sure when I had my first look, this is before the game even launched, and they talked about civ switching, I talked about this idea of adopting attributes of other civs that were in your game. Now, it's a cool idea. I'm a little bit worried and hesitant about how it's going to play itself out in the actual build, because what it looks like there is you can kind of just, pick whatever you want. What would be nice to see is kind of a system whereby if you're not, or if you are using a civilization that is not in its apex age, that you align or adopt the features of a civilization that is maybe, or that has those particular features of its apex age, but that are already in the game. So you can kind of like mimic one of your neighbors that you have contact with, and maybe it adds a diplomatic layer to how you play the game. And obviously, allows you to remain competitive and not slip into this kind of like, dark age just because you decided to stick with a civilization that's not in its quote unquote apex age.
The Civ community has spoken. Victories, in their current state, feel too procedural and disconnected.
Yes.
The core Civ fantasy. So we're overhauling the system with replayability at the forefront. Now, your path to military, economic, cultural, or scientific victory begins in the Antiquity Age, and you win by establishing dominance over a wide range of activities, not a simple age-by-age checklist. Whether you're combining wonders and great works for culture, or mastering gold buildings and treasure fleets for an economic win, the goal is to make sure your win is a direct result of the interesting choices you make throughout a campaign.
So that was short. Yeah, curious that a lot of mystery in there. Like, how is that actually going to play out? Like, what will a cultural victory mean? Is it still just building the Royal Society or Royal Archaeological Society? Which, it's just collect artifacts and then build it in 10 turns or whatever, your most productive city. And the same thing with the Railroad Tycoon. Is it just hit those capitals after your guy? And like, how will your guy finally emerge? Like, if it's gonna just be called something else, but with the same procedure behind it, then nothing will actually change. So I'm curious, that's an evolving one. Like, we have to see how that actually emerges. If it kind of just becomes like a tourism victory where you're constantly pushing your culture and trying to accumulate more artifacts that you can put on display to finally hit like some kind of moving target like it is in Civ 6, that would be far more interesting, like this tourism lens, as opposed to finally just building this wonder at the end.
We've heard your feedback that your journey in Civ 7 can sometimes feel a bit too on rails. To fix that, we're completely replacing legacy paths with a brand new system called Triumphs. Triumphs are tied to the six.
So this is an interesting lens. Look at this color. I can tell these are these ones at the top here. Orphic Mysteries. What is it? Cultural. This Pulling the Strings, League of Legendary Friends, Scientific, Abundance one, Silk Roads, Terror of Traders, Economic. Whoever, I mean, they took steps back, so they're just now returning this to kind of like the normality that we got used to as Civ fans over decades. So, but it's at least nice to see, like this return to just common sense, that we're getting here. Nice.
Core attributes like scientific, expansionist, diplomatic.
I guess the green is diplomatic and the red is obviously militaristic.
Completing these won't just mark your progress. They'll reward you with instant bonuses or strategic rewards to help shape your empire in the next age. You'll trigger.
So hopefully this is kind of the kind of thing where, like, for example, no, let me finish that thought. Hopefully this is the kind of thing where once you accomplish something, you receive some kind of bonus attribute point or whatever, and you move on, and it kind of builds toward the RPG element of the game. Like, for example, previously, the first Civ to discover a wonder unlocks becoming Iceland, which who cares? Especially when they had opened up the sandbox of like, you can pick whatever civilization you want in the next stage anyway. So being the first to discover a wonder now hopefully could add something towards your cultural or economic or diplomatic or whatever and move forward. And hopefully there are many ways to earn these kind of things to build your RPG element into the game. It would be much better, obviously, than moving along through one point to the next point like we've been having to do in the last year.
Some triumphs through normal strong play, like reaching 200 population or being the first to build a university. While to achieve others, you'll have.
So there you go. First to build a university. You earn something. I am fine with that. That is a game mechanic that has been in Civ for forever. Like I think in Civ 4, if you're the first to discover, what is it? I think it's liberalism. If you're the first to discover liberalism, you get a free tech. Huh. Cool. Like all those little kind of things, they matter. And that's kind of like the sandboxiness of the game that everybody has kind of grown to love is do I want to be the first to do this or do I want to be the first to do this and get this bonus? So this is a step in the right direction.
Veer onto a less traveled path. such as being at war with every other player or aggressively claiming most of the natural wonders.
Okay, cool.
It's all about giving you the tools to pivot your strategy whenever you see an opportunity. This is a massive shift in how the game feels, and we've included a lot more context and deep dive logic in the full anniversary article going live with this video. I really encourage you to head over there to see more details around the vision for all these features. Okay, now let's dive into update 132, which will be going live very soon.
Okay.
As always, these are just the highlights. You can find them.
So obviously we're getting some kind of update to the current build before all of these new features get rolled out. Let's see what we got coming.
Full details in the patch notes when the update does go live. First, we're rolling out nested tooltips across production menus.
Nested tooltips. Oh my gosh. So this is a feature from Old World, which is incredibly useful. How it didn't end up in the original build for Civ 7 is anybody's guess, but you know, we've been complaining about this for a year. The developers at Firaxis were looking at the wrong ideas from the wrong games and not looking at the right ideas from the right games. This is one of those common sense ideas. I believe it originated in Old World. You know, leave a comment if I'm wrong about that, if there's some older game that, you know, introduced nested tooltips.
And the tech and civic trees to better access to key information right when you need it. This is just the beginning, so expect more updates that expand nested tooltips to additional areas of the game. As part of our continuing balance adjustments, we're delivering reworks and buffs for several civilizations, including the French, the Mughal, and Dai Viet empires.
Okay.
We're also
cool.
deploying a set of targeted system updates. First, AI diplomacy biases have been adjusted to better align AI behavior with each leader's intended personality. Second, coastal raids have been reworked to function more like naval pillaging, bringing them in line with the new systems we've introduced over the last few updates.
Okay. I mean, I don't think I saw anything wrong with naval coastal raids, but, you know, I think I commented recently in one of my recent playthrough. I mean, recent, I feel like it was over a month ago, where I played as all of the Indian civs that one of the things I overlooked, because they missed so much in some of these big swings that they took, that's kind of what the mind focuses on. But one of the things that actually drew me back was that they had actually really worked hard on fixing some of the nuances of the game. These little things that never seemed to me like big deals, but actually made the game more or less fun. So in this particular case about naval pillaging, like I said, I didn't notice that there's anything like wrong with it, or I was going like, oh, naval pillaging is busted, or it's, you know, just not fun. So I kind of assume that these little tweaks that they make are actually going to be beneficial, and they almost never go in the wrong direction where they make a small tweak and it's bad. I mean, I know that they nerf wonders and stuff like that, which I'm not really a fan of, but in the terms of these like balance tweaks, it kind of usually works out for the better. So, you know, I don't feel it now, but cool. I'm happy.
And third, we're introducing a new appeal lens. This lets you instantly see how appealing any tile is, so you know exactly where to build to net the most happiness for your empire.
Okay.
The most appealing tiles of all, ones shown in the lens as breathtaking tiles, are where your happiness bonus will now be strongest. And because it's our anniversary, we have a special surprise. We're welcoming back the legendary demigod of Uruk, Gilgamesh.
Everybody's best friend.
Roster. Gilgamesh is free for all players as a thank you for your support.
Free is good.
Along with
everybody likes free
profile badge and title. To help you get started with him, you can find the full Gilgamesh game guide on civilization.com right now.
So I get this is coming not with this expansion, this test of time, but I guess this Gilgamesh is coming in 1.3.2, which is nice, and free is nice, but I'm going to give a big but. One of my big complaints about the game is that the leaders chosen for this don't really reflect the classic Civ leaders that every Civ player that has been dedicated to this game for the last 30 years, like myself, really care about. And it would be nice to see with this test of time, we get Shaka, Alexander, Gandhi. I'm sure there's a couple more that I'm missing there, but some of these classic leaders that everybody loves and has loved in every iteration of the game that just kind of disappeared, and that we know and ache over the fact that we're going to have to pay to play them, which is just almost insulting as a Civ fan. Gilgamesh is great. He was really fun in Civ 6. I'm sure he's going to be fun here. But yeah, we got to start diluting this already diluted pool of leaders with classic Civ leaders, and hopefully not pay to play. I'm happy to pay to play Ada Lovelace. Like, I'm sure she was a lovely woman and contributed much to society, but in my brain, she's not leading armies out into the field and developing civilization that would last for hundreds and thousands of years like Alexander. So yeah, I really feel like those fringe leaders should be the pay to play ones, you know, and these classic ones like this, there should be like a kit of 12 or 15 leaders that just are part of Civ. And that's the way it is. And Alexander, Shaka, Gandhi being 3 among them.
We have plenty more planned for the next 2 weeks. A Discord giveaway you won't want to miss. A mystery plushie reveal.
Pointless.
Friends at Makeshift.
Nobody cares.
And Civilization VII hitting Apple Arcade on February 5th.
Again, this is kind of the dumbing down of the Civilization game, but whatever.
A special behind-the-scenes video on February 11th from our audio team on the making of the full Civ 7 soundtrack.
Fun. You know, as an audio guy and a musician myself, I'd probably watch that. It sounds like fun.
On behalf of everyone at Firaxis, thank you for all of your feedback and hours spent taking one more turn this first year. Happy anniversary from us at Firaxis to all of you, and to many one more turns together.
So they're still rocking the build something you believe in. I hope eventually they turn that to build an empire to stand the test of time. I really do. Okay, so there we have it. Overall, the big word for me here that I really do appreciate is free. And like I said about a month ago when I last played, I do feel like the game is improving. And most people are going to be like, well, should I go and buy it? I'd say give it a while. Let this release. Let the commentators get their hands on it. Like I said, I'm very apprehensive about the tweaks they're making to these big swings that whiffed. If they get it right, then I think yes, because like I said, when you're in game, when you're competing against the AI, and when you're involved in warfare, and when you're like, I really want to take that city because I really want to get this, or I really have to defend this city because I can't let the AI get this, it does feel good, and it does feel like Civ. And that only really started happening recently. So if they manage to get this one Civ deal, this Triumphs and this like better ways to win, or like reworking the victories, if they get it right, and I'm not expecting them necessarily to get it right out of the gate, but if they push it into a very positive path, then yes, I think the game will be worth, especially people that want the good introduction to the game, like people who are on the fence about Civ to begin with, and they're like, I've been thinking about getting into Civ. It might not be the right time for the hardcore, diehard Civ fans who feel really hurt by what came out. So I'm not going to suggest, but those folks that are kind of like on the fence and want to try something new, especially with like all the updated graphics and all that kind of stuff, then this will probably mark the true beginning of where the Civ 7 game is supposed to go. And like I predicted, I think in like 1, 2, definitely 3 years, as they keep adding to this game, as they suddenly will be able to add paid DLC to it because people are going to want it because the game is good and playable, that this will become the favorite Civ game of all time. It will hit that part of the cycle that, you know, people talk about, which is, you know, becoming a real thing. I know I got a video about how the Civ cycle is just a myth, but yeah, in this particular case, it's got the Civ cycle thing kind of written all over it. So like I said, I don't think that even after this update that it's going to be fully ready, but I'm very, for the first time, I'm kind of like excited. I'm like, okay, I get to play as Egypt or Greece or Rome the whole way through. I'm going to be able to launch a rocket with Rome, and that's going to feel good. But like I said, there's the 10% of me that's kind of going like, well, you know, if I'm lose track of who Lafayette is leading over the course of these ages, because it's flipping from one civilization to another, I'm still going to be like, oh God, how can I turn that off? And then, you know, people are going to complain, and then they're just going to add the toggle, and it's going to become a game mode as opposed to this, that, or the other. And yeah, so we'll see. That it all kind of rests on how this actually gets laid out. And I hope the workshop is going well. If there's anybody that listens to my videos that is in part of the workshop and has their 2 cents to give to the community that listens to my channel, please speak up, because I'm very curious to know what your experience is. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this video, and especially listening to me fumble over my words, not using a script. You know, it's a different way to present the material. Thank you for listening. Thank you for checking out the channel. Remember to click like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And as always, remember to keep playing and making your own civilization story, your own amazing path through history. I'll see you next time.